Today we are going to discuss or talk about this classroom psychology. Okay, so starting with the term classroom psychology. So it includes basically two things. One is classroom and another is psychology. Okay, so our focus will be on learner psychology in the classroom. That means for us, the learners are students. Okay, so we'll be talking about student psychology and how they act and react, or why they act and react in the classroom, and what could be the possible ways to handle that situation at the moment. Okay, so when we are talking about classroom psychology, it involves the behavior of students in classroom. Okay, the classroom behavior. Okay, the class we need to control and manage. There are two things in this. One is to control and one is to manage. Of course, control is a smaller term, while management is a wider term. So our focus will be on how we can manage the classroom in the best possible way. And classroom, I must say, should be a place where we can provide a good learning environment to the students. Okay, and not just to the students, it is also for us as a faculty members as well. So it should be, the classroom should be that learning environment in which faculty and students are not hindered by any disturbing behavior. Okay, so it must be a place where there should not be any disturbance and the learning process should not be hampered for the faculty who is delivering the thoughts and for the students who are learning from the content that is delivered by the faculty. We need to manage the behavior of our classroom or within the classroom of our students. It can be done by punishing them. It can be done by rewarding them. But these are two extremes. It is not possible every time for the teacher to punish the student who are not behaving properly in the class. At the same time, it is also not possible for teachers to reward for good behavior every time. Okay, so we need to make them behave in such a way that may help them to gain most of the classroom, so that they can get the maximum out of the classroom. So our focus will be on these issues today when we are talking about this classroom psychology. Now, another word which is there in this term is psychology. Okay, so whenever the word psychology comes in front, what comes in our mind? Generally, when we hear the word psychology, we easily relate it to some kind of illness, some kind of mental illness, to be precise. Okay, or when we are talking about somebody is mentally ill or psychologically facing any problem, we think of counselors, that we or that person who is going through such problem may need some kind of counselor. The counselor may suggest some kind of medication or some kind of therapy. Okay, so generally, these are the words which relate, or we only relate the word psychology with these negative terms, or some negative thoughts started coming to our mind when we are talking about psychology. But it is a kind of help the people are seeking. Okay, it is a kind of help the people are seeking for improving their just day-to-day behavior. Okay, this is the way through which we answer the basic questions. It is a kind of study only, that why do people behave in a particular manner? Why do people resist to something? Or in a very simple way, like why we fall in love? Okay, how do children behave when they grow up? Okay, how their behavior changes with the age. So psychology is about studying those situations. Okay, it helps people in some kind of counseling type of situation. Okay, if these counseling sessions can be done, it may just to give help to such people who are going through certain situation in their life. It is just a phase which will pass with time. Okay, it helps in studying the day-to-day life of people. Okay, our focus is on their different modes, different ways, or different, I can say, classification of psychology as well. But our focus will be on educational psychology. Okay, now educational psychology is something that studies and applies various theories and concepts from different or all psychological settings. There are different kind of psychological settings. Yes, yes, please.
Can you just change the slides now?
No, I'm not changing the slide. I'm just talking about the topic only.
No issues.
So far, I have not reached the definitions. I'm just giving the overview of what we are going to discuss.
No issues, ma'am.
Okay. So when we are talking about this classroom psychology, or it can be also called educational psychology. So what I was telling, so we are not just talking about what we are doing within the classroom, but after the classroom also, how we as a faculty need to behave. Okay, what we have to deliver to our student. It talks about all of these things. This kind of psychology studies and applies various theories and concepts that we are getting from different kind of psychological behaviors or psychological settings. Okay, and ultimate goal behind this is to make student-teacher relationship as positive as possible. Okay, so the student can learn best of their potential. They should keep their minds open to accept what the teacher is talking about. So all these things will be covered once we move ahead. So starting with a very basic thing, the meaning and historical background of psychology. As I said, psychology word itself, it is something that is derived from the Greek word psycho and logos. Now the psycho means soul and logos means science. So basically when I'm talking about psychology, it is the science of soul. Okay, it is the science of soul. There are various stages which are involved in psychology, like science of soul, and further that we are trying to study the behavior of our soul, the behavior of our mind, behavior of our consciousness, and ultimately the study of our behavior. Okay, this is what we are studying when we are talking about psychology. Now, it is also, it is a science, it is called, this study is scientific because it is systematic study of observable events or behavior. Now, behavior can be unlearned process, it can be the learned process also. Now, when I'm talking about learned process, so behavior is called learned because all behavior acquired through practice. Sometimes what happens, we are automatically doing this because we are in practice of the same thing. Okay, because culturally maybe we are following the same thing. So what happens when we go to the temple or we pass through a temple, automatically we bow our head. Okay, this is something that we are getting from our culture. Okay, so this is something we have learned with the time. Now, sometimes the behavior is unlearned process, which includes our reflexes, our psychological process, our instincts. Okay, so suddenly if I see a snake is passing by, my instant reaction will be, I will get scared and I will take a step back. Okay, this is how my reflex is working. This is how my instinct is working. This is something unlearned. Okay, but automatically my mind behaved in such a manner that this is something which is going to, the snake is something that may harm me. So this is how my mind reacts to that. Okay, so it is a scientific process. Basically, it is a systematic study of behavior which may be learned or which may be unlearned. Okay, so both of the things are applicable to our classroom psychology as well. Now, today psychology is scientific method of collecting data about individual and group to analyze and predict their behavior. So we are moving ahead with this. Now we are using or considering this for our research work as well. Okay, what we are doing, we are now trying to get the primary data from individual or from group of people, and we are trying to analyze and predict their behavior. We reach to some kind of conclusion based on that. Okay, so this is what is included in psychology. Okay, now psychology, there are numerous definitions which are available, but there are two famous authors or psychologists who have given these definitions, wherein Woodworth and Marquis said that psychology is the scientific study of activities of the individual in relationship to his environment. So according to him, wheresoever the individual is, according to the environment, according to the situation he is in, okay, he is reacting, he is acting according to that. Now, when we are studying these behaviors scientifically, we call it psychology. Then Ellenman also said that psychology today concerns itself with the scientific investigation of behavior. So according to him also, it is a scientific investigation of individual or group's behavior. Now, there are different branches of psychology which are available. These are majorly characteristic into two branches. One is basic branch, another is applied branch. So when I'm talking about the basic branch, Okay, it is further classified into different type of psychologies like general psychology, abnormal psychology, experimental, developmental, and social psychology. But when we are talking about applied psychology, it includes personality psychology, health psychology, forensic psychology, industrial psychology, clinical psychology, and learners psychology. So our focus will be on learner psychology or the classroom psychology, or we can also call it educational psychology. Okay, so when we are talking about learner psychology, so it is known as a branch of psychology which is concerned with scientific study of human learning. Now, who is human for us? For us, this human learning, we are talking about our students who are there to learn in our class. So how they are learning, whether they are slow, whether they are adapting the things very quickly, and if they are slow, then what can we do? If they are very active, then how additional learning can be given to them. So this is all we are going to see under learner psychology, and it is nothing but one of the branch of applied psychology only, and it is an attempt to apply the knowledge of psychology to the field of education. As I said, this is related to the education field. Now, in other words, learner psychology is the study of experience and behavior of learner in relation to learner's environment. Okay, so there are two things again: the environment that we are providing to the learners and their behavior. Okay, so best possible environment is a classroom environment that we are giving them. It has to be that place where external disturbance is not there. Okay, so it will be easier for learner as well as the faculty who is sharing the thoughts with the learners can be easily transformed from one person to another. So this place should be free of any kind of disturbance so that best learning process can happen. Okay. There are again different definitions which are given by different people, I can say psychologists, famous psychologists from time to time about learner psychology as well. So Crow and Crow said that learner psychology describes and explains the learning experience of an individual from birth through the old age. So right from the birth, how an infant is behaving, how a toddler started behaving, how kids are behaving, how young people, teenagers are behaving, then youngsters are behaving, and how with time middle age and old age people are behaving. So when we are trying to study the behavior right from the birth to old age, so learning is not only about the classroom, throughout our life. Even an infant is learning new things every day. Okay, a toddler is learning how to walk. Okay, how to put everything into the mouth. So with the time they are also learning. So Crow and Crow put his thoughts about the learner psychology in this way. Now, according to Peel, learner psychology is a science of learning. Okay, it is a branch of psychology which deals with teaching and learning. This is the definition which was quoted by Skinner. Now, learner psychology with regard to teaching and learning. So when we are talking about teaching and learning, and when we are specifically focusing on learner psychology, now, what are the points? What are the things that we generally keep in our mind? Now, why we are doing so? Why we are studying these things? Because we need to know our learner. So before entering our class, we need to have the brief idea about who our learners are going to be. So like before preparing for this lecture, I always ask Vijaya ma'am that who all will be the audience? Okay, how many audience will be there in the class? What are the different modes that I can use in my class for delivering any kind of lecture? The similar thing I do with my PG students. So whenever I'm entering my class, I try to study the behavior. I try to know my learners before entering into the class. Okay, like I'm taking financial management for MCOM and MBA students. Now, the background of MBA students are different from MCOM students in the sense that MCOM students are thoroughly commerce students. They have studied almost similar papers. Okay, they have a brief idea about finance also. So before, when they are taking financial management for the first time in PG, they have the basic idea. But when I'm entering the MBA class, it is kind of mix of different streams. In MBA class, there are people who are coming from arts background. There are students who are coming from the commerce background, and there are people who are coming from the science background as well. Okay, so the situation is quite different from MCOM students. So before entering to the class, maybe I have to teach the same topic, but the way of teaching is different according to the learner. Okay, that is why I need to know my learner before entering to my class. Then to select and organize the subject matter or learning experience. Because why we are studying the psychology? Because it helps us in selecting and organizing our subject matter. As I said, I'm taking same topic, same subject in two different classes, but way of presenting the topics may be different. Okay, so when I'm taking the same subject for MCOM students, I have to focus more on numericals, more on numbers, more on calculations. But when I'm taking the same topic for MBA students, my focus is more on conceptual things. My focus is more on case studies. Okay, the same topic, but the way of presenting is different. Okay, again, to suggest some art and technique of learning as well as teaching. So if I know my learner, okay, I can prepare, not just I can prepare my subject, but at the same time, I can choose the right technique of taking that particular topic in my class. Then it is also required to arrange learning situation or the environment. So again, as I said, so suppose I'm taking the case study for MBA students. Okay, so I need to give these kind of cases beforehand to the students so that they can read the case studies before coming to the class. Okay, so the situation or the environment is different for different type of student, different type of learners. Okay, then to acquaint him or her with the mechanism of hereditary and the environment. Now the student is also prepared that what is going to happen in the class, what teacher is going to discuss in the class beforehand. They are also coming to the class with the preparation. Okay, so they may have more question to ask. They can get more learning. Okay, the experience will be far better if we are telling them beforehand that what we are going to discuss in the class, because they may also come prepared accordingly. It may also help us as teachers, especially in maintaining discipline in our class. Okay, now if students can see that how their teachers are dedicated toward the learning and making them learn, so the same response you will get from the students as well. You can easily find out the difference between the teachers who are sincere about their classes and the teachers who are just going to the class for marking the attendance of the students. You can easily find out the difference, and you can see the relationship of the teacher who is actually giving something to the students. Even if we as teachers are a bit harsh or maybe very strict to the students, still students will hear to those teachers who are ultimately giving them quality education. Okay, so the discipline will automatically come to the class if we are following these steps before going to the class. It helps us in rendering guidance service. Now, since we are aware of our learners, so there in the same class, it may be possible that you will find different set of students, okay, who are facing maybe different kind of problems. Okay, we can guide them according to their requirement. As I said, there are in MBA students, there are people who are from science background also, but there are students who are from arts background as well. So students who are from arts background, they have never studied any accountancy or finance paper. And at the same time, they have never done any kind of numerical work. But while the science students, if they have not studied accountancy or finance as the subject, but they have done mathematics, they have studied the mathematics or statistics or physics as a subject, so they are familiar with the number games as well. So there is a big difference between these two students. Now, as a teacher, what kind of guidance I have to give to the art student so that he can, okay, come to the level of those commerce and science students who are aware of these kind of subjects in past. So additional guidance or additional support I can give to the students if I am aware of their psychology, what they are going through. Okay, not just this, it also helps in evaluation and assessment for me as a teacher. Now, the time has gone, as I say, that formal or this summative assessment kind of thing is no more existing. Okay, so final exams are the only way of passing a certain level or passing certain class is not existing anymore. We are now following the formative way of assessment where the regular assessment is required, regular evaluation and assessment is required. So when we are doing these kind of exercises regularly in the class, so as a teachers also, we can easily point out and we know that which student or who is standing where in terms of evaluation and assessment. So it is not about only that how they are scoring in their end term exams, but how they are regularly performing in the class. Okay, so as a teacher, if I am studying the psychology, if I'm following these steps, it would ultimately help me in evaluating and assessing my students as well. Okay, sometimes it may also help in solving various classroom problems. If you are facing any problem in managing the class, if suppose your students are coming late, okay, to the class. So if I as a teacher is going to the class regularly before say 5 minutes of the time. So this is a famous again thing in the management that we have seen. So first of all, we as a leader have to act in certain manner. If I am going to the class regularly, if I am giving them some fruitful learning, so this kind of problem will easily taken care of, and the students will automatically start coming to the class, and that too on time. I personally have experienced this thing in my classroom. The students used to come late, but when they have started observing that what they are getting from the classroom or the time they are spending in the class, they have automatically started coming into the class. Now, earlier students used to sit in the class only for the attendance, but now I'm very liberal to my class in terms of attendance. Those who want to come, they're most welcome. Those who don't want to come, they can also roam around wheresoever they can go. I will give them attendance, not an issue at all. Okay. And in spite of giving that liberty, I have at least 95 to 100% attendance in my class. Okay. So the liberty is also a way wherein you can attract more students to our class because we are giving them best learning experience in our class. Okay, and it also helps us in knowing myself. Okay, as a teacher, we also know that where we are lagging. Okay, now how we can improve our classroom experience that more and more students will get attracted to our class. It also acts as a motivation for teaching and learning. Now, since we know if one of my class is going good, I will also feel motivated to prepare even better for my next class. Okay, if I'm getting very good response from the students, I will feel like studying more before going to my class because I will feel like sharing more, additional information to my students. Okay, and the same thing is applicable for the students as well. If they are getting the results, they will be more curious or they will also come prepared to the class with different information. So it is a two-way process basically. 1 point I will share, you will automatically see the 4 points will be given by the students as well. So it may be possible, teachers are not 100%. So it may be possible I may be able to learn something new from my class. And this is something actually happen in our classes. It also adds up to the knowledge about group study and group behavior. So we can do different type of experiment in our class as well. We can give them individual presentations. We can ask them to give group presentations. So we will see that how individuals are behaving in our class and how group is behaving in our class. Okay, if you will see that they are getting very naughty and collectively they are doing any kind of mischief in our class, we can use this situation also in binding them to do something good in the form of team. And you will see it is all about channelizing the energy, because when we are dealing with these youngsters who are in maybe a bachelor's or master's degree, they are full of energy. As a teacher, we need to channelize their energy in the right direction. Okay, and we will see the results. The results are definitely positive if we can give the proper direction to their energy. Learning and learner psychology. Now, learning by all it means is an attempt to mold and shape the behavior of our student. Okay, this is the purpose for which we are taking the classes, because we want our student to learn something what we are talking about in the class. Now, its aim is to produce desirable changes in them for all-round development of their personality. So it is not only that when I'm talking or teaching one particular subject. So it is not that I just want my students to learn certain formulas or learn certain concepts. It is about the overall development, all-round development of the students, of their personalities. Okay, so whenever they are passing out after one semester, how they have changed as a person, what they have learned, not just in terms of subjects, but as a teacher, what we are giving them to develop their personality as an individual. Okay, so these are additional things that we are giving to our students. Sometimes we are not aware of. Okay, the essential knowledge and skill to do this job satisfactorily are supplied by learner psychology. As Peel puts this in the following words. He said that learner psychology helps the teacher to understand the development of his pupils, the range and limit of their capacities and process by which they learn, and their social relationships. Okay, so as I said, it is not only about teaching the subject. It is not only about sharing the concept with them related to the subject. It is also about going beyond it. Okay, how our students are learning beyond the subject. Are we motivating them to take part in different extracurricular activities, or we are just pressing them to study, study, and study? So now there is a time, and this is the time actually where only education or only subject knowledge won't work. Okay, the students needs to be involved in different kind of activities to learn or to develop their overall personality. So we as a teacher, it is our job to encourage them. Okay, now I'm taking finance subjects in my class, but at times whenever I get the chance or whenever I feel that students are not in the mood of study, I generally talk them something of this sort only, that what kind of games they are playing when they are on campus. Okay, are they only playing indoor games, or they are coming out of their rooms as well? Okay, if not, then I keep on motivating them to take part in some kind of extracurricular activity. It's not always necessary that students are interested in only playing. Sometimes some students are interested in drama, some are dance, some are going to singing, or some are interested in art and craft kind of thing. So try to point out or try to pull out what additional qualities your students have apart from learning. Okay, in this sense, they will feel more attached to you as a teacher. Okay, they will come and share their problems with you, where they are facing the problem. Like in our university, we have the concept of mentor-mentee. Okay, so every teacher, every student is allotted with a mentor. So whenever they face any problem related to the subject or in university, or in fact, if personally also they are going through some kind of challenge, they can always approach that teacher. But the student will only approach the teacher if they have the trust that teacher will keep those information with themselves. First of all, that confidentiality thing. And the second is they will be able to get some kind of solution from the teacher. Okay, they need to feel that comfort that they come and talk to the teacher. Okay, so this kind of environment we have to give to our students. Now, why this learner psychology is required? What are the different functions of this learner psychology? It is to afford a thorough knowledge of nature of the student. So we need to understand the nature of the students before we begin with our teaching thing. It is also required to provide an understanding of nature, aims, and purpose of learning. So it is not just that I'm going and just throwing what I have learned to my class. I need to understand the nature of the subject, the aim, why I'm teaching this, the purpose of learning, why the students are ready to learn that particular subject. And for this, we have this COPO thing in our university. Like we draft curriculum objective, we also draft program of specific objective. Okay, so we see at the end that whether students who are appearing for the exams, whether they have met the curriculum objective, the objectives which are drafted before teaching. Okay, whether they have met the program objectives. Again, there are objectives that we have drafted before teaching. So at the end, we can see that whatever objectives we have drafted or set before taking subjects, Okay, are these students able to reach to that level or not? Okay, then it is also required to acquire familiarity with the technical vocabulary and to further understanding and an appreciation of scientific procedures by which data of learner psychology are obtained. So it is not just this, that it is not only about teaching. As I say, it is in the beginning I have mentioned that now studying the psychology needs some kind of data. Okay, now we take the data, we try to understand the psychology, and now we are trying to work on that. What kind of strategies can be used to teach in the class? Now, what happened when I'm taking the classes for the for the final semester? So whatever I had in the form of learning from these students, I can apply this to my next batch as well. Okay, but like five fingers are not similar. Every batch has different quality. Every batch of the students has different quality. So we as a teacher also need to learn step by step, and we have to improve with time. That what kind of things are applicable in the first batch or in the upcoming or the next batches. Okay, it also helps us to provide a significant knowledge of development process with a particular emphasis upon promotion, guidance, and control of mental and moral aspects. So as I said, it is not only about like PG students are developing. They have passed 2 years in our university. They came as a fresh pass out of BCom or UG students, but now they have passed 2 years. So mentally they are definitely grown up, but morally are they improving as well? So it is our duty as a teachers to improve them, not just mentally but morally also. Keep on giving them guidance and controlling them to improve on these aspects of our life, of their lives as well. It is also required, the learner psychology is also required to provide an understanding of principle governing learning. Okay, now it is done together with the knowledge of technique of guiding improvement in learning and their application to the problems in the classroom. Okay, so not only just teaching the concept, but putting the students into, if possible, into a real life situation and see that how they are reacting to that situation. Okay, sometimes these kind of exercises can be spontaneous. Okay, into the class. You don't give time for them to prepare for a certain situation and ask them to react in that situation. Okay, some role play kind of activity can be done in the class for this purpose. Okay, sometimes some management games or some different types of games can be spontaneous, arranged by the teacher in the class, and let's see how students are reacting to this. Now, it is this learner psychology is also required to present the theories underlying the measurement and evaluation of mental abilities, aptitudes, achievements, interest, and personality organization. Now, how we can organize the students' ability, their aptitudes, their achievements, their interest, and personality. So when all these things are combined together, we can form a theory, okay, which can be applied to group of students in future as well, and of course with the presence of our mind. Now, when we are talking about psychology of learner, this area is majorly concerned with some problems like what students are going through, like what is running in their mind when they are in class or when they are trying to study the subject. Now, they are thinking about like, does the study of Sanskrit helps than study of Hindi? So at times it has happened when they are thinking that which subject, when they have to choose between two, then which is better for them? Is it possible to improve the memory? Why do we actually forget? Because they are not understanding, they are just learning. Okay, see, there is a difference between learning and understanding as well. Are there any economic method of memorizing? So is there any way through which you can, just drink something and it will remain in your mind? Okay, how do children acquire skills? So it is not about educating them, how they are getting any kind of skill, how they are learning something different. Like we have in our programs, we have some skill development courses as well. Apart from the core subjects that we are teaching to our students, we have 2 credits of skill development courses and 2 courses in every semester. Like 4 credits they have to spend on skill development. So we are putting them into such a situation where they are learning something beyond their subjects as well. So learning the subject like macroeconomics or maybe accountancy is one thing. is education that they are getting, but presenting them and utilizing them into the real life is the skill. Okay. So we are teaching them some skill development courses as well, through some skill development courses as well. Then when is learning more effective? Now, what is the best time of taking what kind of class? Okay, sometimes what happens that in very beginning, we prefer to put some theory classes, because in morning when their students are coming to the class, they have very fresh minds. So the learning is easy. And if we give them practical papers in the morning, so they will, finish all their energy in the morning by doing practical papers. Now in afternoon, when they are feeling lazy, okay, they are not ready to listen, or it is not possible for anyone to listen in post lunch classes. So how this learning can be more effective? So these theory subjects can be, we can add some kind of activities in theory subjects also if we are giving them the classes in afternoon sessions. So when the learning is more effective for which subject, that is also important. Now, what are the factors that helps learning process? Now, what are additional things that can be possible? Now, what happens, sometimes I take classes within the classes, and at times when I have to do some kind of discussion with the students, I prefer to take them in some open ground, and we sit there together to discuss these things. They don't even know that they are learning new things, but in a way, I finish one topic with them. Now, how do we measure the amount of learning? Okay. So this is also, this is something which is there in the mind of learner, and we as a faculty members, we as a teachers need to address these kind of issues. Achha, there are certain psychological problems also which are faced by the students if they are not able to learn properly, or they are feeling some kind of disturbance. Now what happened? They start this kind of procrastination kind of thing. Now what happens? They are not ready to learn. Okay, they keep on lingering things. Okay, basically procrastination is, I can say, the act of putting off doing something. Okay, like, delaying something that you should do till maybe today, but you are keep on delaying this to some another day or maybe next time. And then it is not that you are not able to do this. It is because you don't want to do this right now. Okay. So this is called procrastination. And as a result, the student will start getting bad scores, bad grades, and sometimes they may fail also. Okay. So we as teachers need to point out these kind of issues. Now what happens? Students sometimes believe in perfectionism. They want to give their best. They want to present best. Want to do best. Okay, so we as a teacher need to make them comfortable even if they are making any kind of mistake. Okay, so perfectionism and doing things effectively are two different things. So at times what happens, when they are focusing on this perfection, it may also lead to some kind of depression if they are missing something. Okay, some general kind of anxiety comes into their mind, or you will feel in their behavior if they are not perfect at times. Some kind of social anxiety is there. Satisfaction in their life is generally low, who always wants to be perfect. Okay, they at times feel low on their self-esteem or self also, which ultimately decrease the productivity. So again, we as a teacher need to give the comfort to our students that even if they are not perfect, they are doing very good job. Okay, it also leads to low self-esteem when they are facing some kind of psychological problem. It is also a kind of some mental health issue though, but we as a teacher can support our students. Otherwise, it may lead to creating unnecessary anxiety, stress, and sometimes students will feel comfortable in being lonely. They don't want to be in groups. Okay, there may lead to, or likelihood of depression may happen. Okay, it may lead to developing some kind of unhelpful habits, like they may get themselves indulge into smoking or drinking, etc. if they are going through some low self-esteem phase. So again, we as a teacher need to support them. Okay, every student is different. Every student is unique. Learning process is unique for every student in our class. Okay. Student may also feel some kind of anxiety and stress, which may lead to some social behavioral problems. Okay, they start cutting themselves from their friends. They feel staying all alone most of the time. At times, they start neglecting their personal hygiene and self-care as well. Okay, they don't feel good about anything. Okay, this may also lead to poor performance and learning of the student. Okay, and it may also be possible that your communication will become weak. Okay, so we as a teacher need to, get connected to our students. We need to give them that comfort that they can come up and they can talk to us. Okay, so it because if the communication is weak, ultimately we as a teacher will start observing that it affects their academic progress. It may also be possible that it is difficult for them to understand and at times to express as well. And as a result, student may start avoiding attending classes. Okay, they are facing some kind of difficulty in tests or the evaluation process that we need to do. Okay, so we as a teacher need to take care of these problems that students are going through in our class. Now, there are certain major areas which are covered by learner psychology. It includes these 6 steps or 6 phases. The first one and the foremost one is learner. Of course, for whom we are doing this exercise. For learners only, we are trying to study all these things. We need to know our students and we need to know that how we need to deal with individual in our class. Okay, we need to understand their conscious and unconscious behavior, the characteristics of development and growth. Okay, right from they are entering to the class, when they are learning and when they are leaving our class. Okay, then second is learning process. Okay, it is an experience that we are providing to our students, and it is our expertise that how we can provide this learning experience with very ease. Okay, the learning experience to be very, very simple for them. It should be enjoyable for them. They should enjoy coming to the class and learning new things. Okay, this leads to a good learning situation. That means a good classroom environment that we are giving to them. As I said, always sitting in a closed classroom may not be very good or may not be giving them change. So change is something we as human always look for. Okay, sometimes changes are not very positive, but at times, if you are doing exercises or if you are doing your homework, these changes may lead to very positive impact. So we can take our classes to some outdoor places where we can sit and discuss their views. It gives it gives the opportunity to students also to speak their heart out. Okay. Then next is it is about learning situation. The next is teaching situation. Okay, so there are again so many things that we need to keep in our mind as a teachers, like teaching pedagogy that we are following in our class. Okay, and it has to be changed according to the age, according to the mental level of students we are dealing with, the past knowledge that they are having, their interest. Okay, so as I said, there is a difference between MCOM students and MBA students, even though they are taking classes for the same subject. Okay, so we as a teacher need to improve this teaching situation. Now, evaluation of learning performance. Okay, now we need to evaluate that how our learner has developed with time. Okay, so we keep on guiding them, we keep on counseling them. We need to do these kind of activities, and we need to follow some kind of formative assessment process, wherein only the last exam is not the conclusion of or not the standard which can judge their learning, but a continuous evaluation system should be developed, wherein we can see that how the students has developed throughout the semester. Okay, and last but not the least, I can say the another pillar of the learner psychology is teacher. Okay, so as a teacher, we need to know ourselves first. What kind of personality traits we are having? What are our interests? What are our how is our attitude toward my class, toward my work? Okay, what are the characteristics of being an effective teacher? Okay, And most importantly, how a teacher is handling the stress and anxiety. This is something also replicable in our classes. So we as a teacher need to understand this pretty well. There are different methods of understanding and studying psychology of learning. These three methods are introspection, observation, and experimental methods. We will see this one by one. Now, when I'm talking about introspection method, so it is a method of self-observation. Introspection means intro means within and inspection means looking. So when I'm looking within myself, that means I am following introspection method. So it is a method where individual is looking within oneself. Now there are three stages of introspection method, which says that during the observation of external object, the person being to ponder over his own mental state. So we as a student, we as a teacher need to study our mental state as well as the mental state of our students. Okay, so what will happen giving the different situation? We allow our student to act or to give their reaction to that. Okay, and we try to gather this kind of data, that how they are reacting. Okay, so the person begin to question working on his own mind. He thinks and analyze. So we need to leave the students with the thought process on. Keep on, it's a continuous thought process. Okay, we as a teacher also need to ask ourselves different questions in our mind. And we need to analyze that why we are behaving in such a way. If I'm getting angry on some student, why I'm getting angry? Okay, because the student is asking the right question. It is their right to ask the question. Okay, so, and I will find answers on my own. And this ultimately helps me in improving myself. Okay, my emotional stages. Okay, this is how I need to introspect and I need to improve on myself as a teacher. And the same method I can give to my student also by asking different questions, giving them opportunity to react. Okay, leaving them in a thought process. The next is observation method. Now we don't have to do anything. We just need to observe the things. Now observation deals with overt behavior of person in an appropriate situation. Now the situation is given. Okay, it is a observation is a measurement without instrument. Now we are trying to measure something, but we don't have any instrument for that. There are different steps in this as well. First of all, we need to observe the behavior. Okay, what happened? We sit quietly and we see that how our students are behaving. I'm taking my class and I as a teacher individually observe that how my individual student is behaving on my what I say in class. If I'm giving some spontaneous test, okay, how they what is their behavior, what is their reaction? Okay, if I'll ask them that I'm not in a mood of teaching today, what is their reaction to that? Okay, if I'm spontaneously announce that I'm going to give them opportunity to play some game in the class, then what is their reaction? I'm just observing, I'm doing nothing. Okay, and then I'm recording this behavior. Okay, I immediately note or record the behavior, that how my students are reacting. Now, why I need to record this immediately? Because if I'm not recording this, I may also forget with time. So I will record this immediately, how my students are behaving. And later on, I am analyzing and interpreting their behavior. Now, I have different set of observations with me. I will now analyze the behavior. Okay, and I will try to find out some kind of pattern, that whenever I spontaneously announce something, my students are getting happy. Okay, if I'm not announcing something, or if I'm going to the regular class with some subject of teaching, there is the same behavior or lethargic behavior that I'm observing. So I need to study this behavior, and I have to generalize, and I have to prepare myself as a teacher in advance accordingly. So on the basis of analysis and interpretation of the data which is collected, now it is possible for me to generalize. Okay, we need to understand the psychology of our students. Okay, so the social development and behavior of children has been described by child psychologists. Okay, so we are also a kind of psychologists who are trying to study the behavior of our students. and we act and react accordingly. The last method is experimental method. As the name suggests, some kind of experiments need to be done in this case. Okay, this in 1979, William Wundt established the first psychological lab in Leipzig in Germany. This is a city in the Germany where the first psychological lab was established. Okay, and this method was performed, which consists of action performed under some pre-arranged or rigidly controlled conditions. Since it is a lab, so the conditions are under control. Now we may ask some group of students. This was the experiment done at that time as well. Group of students were asked, okay, to come to this lab. They are giving different type of situation, and we are observing their reaction to that. Okay, so a kind of experiment was done. We are observed their reaction, and we ultimately reach to some kind of conclusion based on the reaction. Okay, so according to J.W. Best, the experimental research is the description and analysis of what will be or what will occur under carefully controlled condition. Okay, even the group of students who are called for are aware that they are undergoing some kind of experiment. Okay, we need to follow these steps when we are doing some kind of experiment, and this is something we do in our own researches as well. When we are doing some kind of primary data research or research based on the primary data, these are the steps that we follow. So first of all, we need to identify the problem. We need to identify the situation or the problem for which we need to do the experiment. We need to formulate some kind of hypothesis or some kind of assumptions. Okay. Then we need to make distinction between dependent and independent variables. That what is going to change if some existing situation is going to change. So what would be your dependent and what would be your independent variables? Okay. Some controlling situation variables are also there. Okay. And once these things are done, ultimately we need to analyze the results that we are going. And finally, we will verify the hypothesis, the assumptions that we took in the beginning. Okay, whether we have accepted it or we have rejected these assumptions. Okay, these are the steps that are being done or followed when this experimental method is done. This is all from my side about classroom psychology. So I end with this quote that a teacher is not a professional, for he or she has no clients, because we only have students. Now, teacher-student relationship is one like even mother and child relationship. So at times we need to understand, even if our students are not speaking, they are not talking to us directly, but mother only can understand what the child. That means the teacher cares. This caring for the student make a teacher a real teacher. So this was the famous quote which was given by Swami Dayanand Saraswati. Now the platform is open for the question answer session. You are most welcome to ask if you have any kind of question.